Welcome to Oddball. I'm Charlotte Wilder. That's Amin Elhassan. And Amin, I believe you have something to say to me today.
Yeah, I just noticed our opening artwork has a question mark in it. So it's technically Oddball?
Listen, that's sometimes how I feel about it. So I think it's apropos.
No, Charlotte, you were right and I was wrong. The Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Denver Nuggets in 7 games. I had the Nuggets in 6. Then after they lost game 6, I said, that's fine. They'll just win it in 7. And then they were up 20 and I was like, this is done deal. And that's the exact look on my face I had in the second half. When I realized what was happening, I was like, holy shit, this is really happening. This grand collapse from the defending champs.
It was crazy. This was the largest Game 7 comeback win in NBA history. Yes. The Wolves beat the Nuggets 98-90. They were down 20 points in the third quarter, not like at the half. At the half, they were down 15. They also won this on the 20th anniversary of the Timberwolves' last Game 7, which was also their only previous Game 7. And it was also former star Timberwolf Kevin Garnett's birthday. Like, this felt like some basketball god stuff happening on Sunday. I mean,
maybe the basketball Illuminati were involved there.
Oh wow!
No, it was weird, and you know, I've been team experience over youth this whole time, and I thought, like, look, it's okay. You guys won one at home in Game 6. All right, go back Game 7, and things are going to happen in a certain way because that's how they always happen. And they went up Denver in the first half, and I said, see, this is exactly what I'd look like. Anthony Edwards is struggling. Nobody else had it going. Nuggets firing on all cylinders. Jamal Murray has 24 points at halftime. And, you know, it's almost like when I talk about experience, it's always like, you know, you got two teams, they're playing, and the young team thinks, I'm playing hard, I'm focused, I'm everything. And the older team says, you thought this is playing hard and focused? No, let me turn this up to 11. You thought it went from 1 to 10. It actually goes up to 11, right? But then what happened in the second half last night? It's a little bit of Denver turning it back down from 11, down to, let's say, 9. But then Minnesota turned it up to 12. They said, you old man, you thought it is a higher level than 11. And that's how you get this massive turnaround in the second half of a game, like almost a 30-point turnaround.
Yeah, when Rudy Gobert is the guy making a shot that makes Ant and Kat say this is what they said about Rudy's turnaround jumper.
I think when Rudy hit the turnaround, I was like, yeah, we probably got him. Because I know that'll kill you. I know that'll kill that'll kill everything. Yeah. Hey. Big shout out to Big Rue, man.
He's telling the truth. He's refreshingly telling the truth. It's just like,
yes.
Yeah, if I was playing against Rudy Gobert and he hit a turnaround fadeaway jumper from like 18 feet, I'd be crushed too.
Yeah, that would also suck my soul out of my body, which it appeared to, because it was just from there on, it was like, oh, wow, the Timberwolves are actually going to win this, which was crazy too. I mean, I think part of this that's interesting, is that Ant, at halftime, he came back out after the half and he played hard. He didn't get dejected. I think he had very few points in that first half, but it was just, it was really cool to see. And we're going to hear more from the buddy comedy that is Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. But is anyone, I don't know that I've seen anyone talk about how with 30 seconds left, Denver appeared to just sort of give up. Did you notice that? I was like,
that shit was weird, man, because it was like they missed the shot and I'm like, all right, go ahead and foul. And Jokic like literally bends over like to untie his shoelaces or some shit. And everybody else just stopped as a result. And I said, are they waving the white flag? Like, it's Game 7. This is it. It's win or go home. I would have thought they would have fouled up until like there's 0.5 seconds left on the clock or whatever, up until every last gasp. I was shocked that they and it's weird because I think McDaniels gets fouled and he doesn't hit both free throws. And then Karl Anthony Towns has a turnover at the other end on the inbound. It's like, dude, this was totally within reach. You need some stuff to happen, but again, you're playing against a young team. Why would you just assume nothing good is going to happen? Wow, it's all over. Anyway, I was staggered that it wasn't brought up on the broadcast. It wasn't brought up in the post game. It wasn't brought up, I don't think, in the post game press conferences. That was weird.
Yeah, that was bizarre. And it sort of spoke to, there was like a vibe of dejectedness around Denver in that fourth quarter, where it's like, well, it's not over. It doesn't have to be over. Yeah. But what is over is the Denver Nuggets being on another championship run because they are officially out. Now, this is going to be the 6th new champion we have this season. Like, for 6 years, there has not been a repeat. Mm-hmm. Is that good or bad?
Depends on who you're asking for. If you're asking for avid basketball fans, I have to assume if you're listening to this show, you're an avid basketball fan. It's good, right? Variety is the spice of life, and everyone get new people reaching these heights, and we get kind of break up the monotony of dynasties. The problem is dynasties are massively successful because they bring in the casual fan. And the best example I can give of this is when I was watching the finals in 2020 on TV, the bubble finals. Mm-hmm. My kid walks in the living room, sits next to me, and says, "These are the finals?" I said, "Yes." And my kid stares at the screen for about 30, 45 seconds and then looks at me and says, "Where's Klay Thompson?" Because in my child's mind at that time, there's no such thing as an NBA finals that doesn't have Klay Thompson and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Like, that's the finals, right? Like, and so that's what a casual fan is like. It's like someone who hasn't been paying attention all year long, and you say, "Hey, the NBA finals are on." They're like, "Cool, Steph and LeBron, right?" Like, well, no, it's these new guys. Like, what? Who's Anthony Edwards? Like, we're like, yeah, cool, Ant-Man. I love watching his career, but for the casual fan, many of these names are going to be brand new to them. I guarantee most casual fans don't know, for instance, someone like Rudy Gobert, who is very well known to NBA fans.
They know him because he touched a bunch of microphones in 2020.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, they do. But long story short is that's how you bring in casual fans, is by familiarity. It's like McDonald's. If I go to McDonald's, I know a Big Mac tastes the same in Sheboygan as it does in Miami, as it does in Brooklyn, as it does in Las Vegas. That familiarity is what brings in millions and millions of people every day versus like the gourmet burger from pick a steakhouse, Fleming's. Like, it might taste a lot better than a McDonald's Big Mac, but the reality is most people they don't, "Oh, really? I've never heard of this." And so that's the difference there.
Right. I mean, I'm do hungry. Think, though, that if this were, same. If this were a year to not have a repeat, I kind of feel like it was this one, because the Nuggets, they have Jokic. Yes, he's lovable in a sort of like, I don't want to be here way in terms of being the face of the league. But so in this case, I think that the Timberwolves are the best case scenario if they can become a dynasty from here on out, because we just saw that buddy comedy. You see that Ant has this fire. He wants to be the center of attention. And that's really fun. And so we can only hope that they can keep this going.
It's unnecessary, right? Like, it's really hard to have the face of your league be someone who's reluctant. Right? Yeah. Tim Duncan was I would argue, the best player in the league for a stretch. And the problem was, like, Duncan and the Spurs, they just don't want any parts of that, which is fine from a basketball standpoint, but this is a business at the end of the day. Now, luckily, the league had Shaq and Kobe and Tracy McGrady and all these other guys who could do that heavy lifting. This, I think you're right, is the best case scenario. Yes, it would have been nice to have the Nuggets repeat so that people can become more and more familiar with Jokic and the Nuggets. The reality is, Jokic is not a salesman. And Anthony Edwards, he's a hell of a salesperson. So if we're going to get a change, maybe in the long term, this is a change for the better. I'm talking strictly business, ladies and gentlemen. Don't come at me like, "Oh my God, he said it's better than the..." Oh, shut up.
Oh, well, Ant was really selling Minnesota to Charles Barkley on the broadcast after the game. Can we play that?
I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring your ass.
Yep. Also, love that Charles Barkley was incorrect. He went to Minnesota 5 years ago for the Final Four. They showed they rolled the film and everything on TNT. I love that show so much because they don't let shit slide.
No, me too. I am obsessed with that show. We'll see what happens. Media rights conversation. Something also I think that the Wolves have not in their favor, though, is A-Rod. He's a minority owner. People forget that. He looked pretty embarrassing.
My God.
What is that suit?
It's not the suit. It's he did like a choreographed. handshake, which for players is cool because like you're in the locker room all day, you're on the bus, you're on the on the flight, like, hey, let's do a little thing. You're the owner, dude. Were you sitting there choreographing with your star player? Hey, when you win the game, we're gonna do this thing like this. Like, shut up, man. Hey, Ryan, go somewhere. I don't know who's more annoying, him or John Starks or Ben Stiller.
John Starks. Well, let's talk about okay. John Starks and Ben Stiller. They had their hearts broken on Sunday. The Knicks lost to the Pacers at home at MSG in a Game 7, 130 to 109. They went pretty quiet, but also the Pacers shot 67% from the field, which is the best ever in a playoff game. Like, no qualifiers, like the best ever. And I just can't help but feel that the Knicks have been on the basketball gods seem to be mad at them. If they're happy with the Wolves, they're mad at the Knicks because everybody was hurt. And then Brunson in the third quarter fractured his hand. And then the Pacers happened to have a historic shooting night. I mean, that's got to be one of the unluckiest runs ever. I mean, I
was still like Golden State in the finals still is the worst.
Oh, right.
Because Durant and Klay Thompson, and it was just everything collapsed and by the way, collapsed moments before probably Kawhi Leonard would have collapsed because he was playing hurt as well. But I mean, it's bad. It's a bad string, and also like there's some real stuff, and then there's some supernatural stuff. Which one do you want me to give you? The supernatural or the real?
Oh, the supernatural, definitely.
Okay, the supernatural,
no question,
is when you have people chanting Knicks in 6, we want Boston, all that stuff, like, like basically taking measurements for your ring fingers before you've even like advanced pass around. That's what happens, man. The basketball guys don't like cocky. And I'm not saying the players did any of that. The players have no fault. Coach Tibbs, they left it all out there. But the fans and maybe some people, other people who might be the biggest fans of them all, maybe they have a vested financial ownership interest. Them's the people that you reap what you sow.
I mean, is every fan base the worst though? Also, someone tweeted that Knicks fans are just Cowboys fans in Tim's.
False.
Why is that false? Disprove
because
it.
Cowboys fans had success to lean on. A somewhat, not recent, but somewhat recent compared to the Knicks. Knicks have the problem with the Knicks fan base isn't like that they're awful. It's that the entitlement. What, like, you got 2 titles pre-merger. You know how I feel about pre-merger titles. Shout out to Boston, right? Like, okay. I'm just saying, like, at least Boston can point to like a zillion of those things that happened pre-merger and for post-merger. The Knicks don't even have anything in the Reagan administration. What are you talking about? Like the Cowboys, yes, they won their titles in the 90s and then some earlier than that. The most recent ones in the 90s. You know what we had in the 90s? The internet.
What?
Microsoft Windows, cell phones. Like, there's still enough stuff that has some connection to our reality right now. The Knicks, this shit wasn't even in color. They had to colorize it after the fact. It was in black and white, and then someone else went there with like a magic marker and like, okay, blue, that's what they're wearing. Yellow, that's what they're wearing. Come on, what are we doing here?
I mean, I do think that the Knicks are really good at finding villains, though. Like, Knicks fans, they had Trae Young a few years ago, Tyrese Halliburton. He's the new guy. Yeah. He showed up to the postgame presser in a sweatshirt of Reggie doing the choking motion at Madison Square Garden. And I mean, my feeling about this is, I don't know, maybe we're walking into the building and I might feel differently, but I also think there's an element of this where Tyrese is doing an impression of what he thinks a tough, cool guy would do, because I don't fully. Tyrese he's like a sweet, like I don't see this energy from him. It's like he's doing an impression of Ant.
No, I'll tell you what's funny. Do you see what the lower bar says? Cowardly Pacers trigger Knicks fans. I love the editorializing from our producers, right? Especially our one producer, Gabe, who is a huge Knicks fan and who sounds exactly like the insane Knicks fans in my group chat. Namely, and I'm going to name check this guy, Elite the producer. He's a Grammy Award-winning producer. He produced for J. Cole. He's produced for Ari Lennox or a bunch of other people. He is the most insane Knicks fan. And the anger that they have towards Halliburton is just hilarious to me. By the way, this is what Gabe, our producer, did to recreate what he thinks is Halliburton traveling. He sent us that, by the way. Shout out to the Flintstones.
I thought you were going to hide his face for that whole thing, but Gabe, shout out. You owned what you were talking about. We established that Halliburton does not travel on every play. It is actually very difficult to do what he does, but,
it's a gather. It's a point to gather. By the way, I'm going to say this to what you said, Charlotte, about you know what? Here's another thing. How about you don't chant, "Fuck you, Reggie," in game 1 of a series or whatever game that was real early. Hey, Josh Hart, how about you play the game instead of going to have a conversation with Reggie in the middle of the game? Like, hey, man, basketball gods went, oh, you guys think you got it, huh?
Sort of fun, though. One more thing about the Knicks. First of all, I think that this was a blessing in disguise for Knicks fans, because what are you going to do? Have a team with literally nobody go into face the Celtics and just they'll mop the floor with them? No, you don't want that. That would be so depressing for Knicks fans. Also, I understand. I've sort of fell in love with this team a little bit. I'm not too ashamed to admit. So I can't rag on Knicks fans the way you can. I'm also married to one. But he was like, this would have been terrible if we had won because of what would have happened next. But Jalen Brunson thanked the fans, even though you're not thanking the fans. Jalen Brunson did. He's also just become the master at saying nothing in a press conference. If anyone ever wants to get out of answering a question, watch a Jalen Brunson press conference. That is next level stuff.
Is it two? Oh, hold on. Okay, I got it right here. Yep. Contractually obligated moment to say, hey, LeBron to the Knicks. Look, they got a zillion picks. You could package them with Julius Randle and Alec Burks. Ooh, he had a good game, good couple of games. And then give them, and then you draft Bronny with one of the picks here. You keep one of the picks to draft Bronny, and then LeBron comes, and you got LeBron and Bronny and Jalen Brunson and happily ever after in Madison Square Garden. What do you think?
No, it is not too early, because the first thing my husband said to me was, can you imagine if LeBron came here? He would be a hero in New York. When is someone going to realize that if they come to New York and win a championship, they will be a hero and it will be the best thing that ever happened to this city? So I think we're on the same page in terms of...
That's the entitlement I'm talking about right there. If you win here, you'll be a hero. You win anywhere else, people yawn. But here, you're a hero. Shut up.
Are they wrong?
Yes, they are.
Welcome back to Oddball. I never thought that I would be able to say this. When we started this show back in July, we can talk about the Western Conference Finals and the Eastern Conference Finals. We can make predictions. We know what this matchup is. It's been a long season. I'm very excited about this. Obviously, we talked about Ant and Kat being a buddy comedy a little bit. But they were asked about their playoff experience. And let's run that clip.
Usually in NBA history, it says you have to lose and lose big before you win. What is it about this team that says
we lost last year?
Yeah, but that's different. You have to lose at a bigger stage. Usually, teams.
It's the playoffs. We lost last year.
We lost the last 2 years. Shit.
God, how much more we got to lose?
Yeah, how much you want us to lose?
We're losing for 20 years.
That's just the truth.
Oh, that soul laugh in the background, what I call the Doc Rivers press conference laugh. Someone said something mildly funny, and someone said, I have to ham up my laugh even louder because I like them. Ha ha!
It does sound like scripted comedy, though. It's pretty good. Their timing is very good together.
Yes, very good timing.
Very good timing.
The person asking, I know the reporter asking the question, it's Vinny Goodwill from Yahoo Sports, my good friend. I knew it was him not because I recognized his voice, but because I could hear how loud his suit was. Trust me, he's from Detroit. His suit was very loud. But I know what he's getting at. What he's getting at is traditionally throughout the history of our game, the champions go through stages of heartbreak. Mm-hmm. And it's rarely in first round. It's you get almost to the mountaintop. It's Sisyphus rolling a boulder to the top, and then it rolls back right before you get to the peak. And so Vinny was saying, basically, this is a game 7. That's usually where the rollback happens. Do you guys feel like you've had it and now you've overcome it and now you're on your way, in the same way that Michael Jordan and the Bulls lost to the Pistons in the conference finals in 1990 before coming back and winning in 91?
Right, which is so against the Mavs, because we now know that the Western Conference Finals is Mavs versus Wolves. What stands out to you? Like, what is your gut reaction when you hear this as to who's going to win?
You look at Minnesota; they're certainly healthier. We know how banged up Luka is, or was, at least in the last series. So they're healthier. They are an elite defense. They are the best defense in the league, and I think they proved that more in Game 7 than they did any other time during the playoffs or even the regular season. Like, this is a team that is suffocating defensively. They've got a lot of depth, and they've got what I can only assume to be a ton of confidence. You just beat the champs at their building after being down 20 in the second half. Nothing can be scarier than that, right? With them having the reigning MVP, the best player in the league, et cetera, et cetera. On the other hand, the Dallas Mavericks are certainly a different bunch, we know, since the trade deadline. They also now defend. And I would say they've got two shot makers that are among the best in the league in Kyrie and Luka. And I think if you say Luka and Ant are kind of peers, I think we would all agree that Kyrie is the next best player in this series. And then there's Karl Anthony Towns comes after that. And so I think if you're Dallas, you feel confident about those things. And also the fact that you've won the last two series on the road. So you're not intimidated with not having home court advantage.
Right, because the Wolves have home court advantage, but that also didn't mean anything in the semifinals. So it is interesting to me. I feel like it's what?
I mean, Game 6, it meant something.
Oh, yeah. But not at the end. Not in Game 7.
No.
I just feel like it might be more of an uphill battle for the Mavs. I think that the health stuff is huge, obviously. I also think that the Wolves, I don't know, they've got that sparkle on them right now. I mean, I might have to do another Wolves and
not yet. We don't have to do it yet.
I'm not ready. Okay.
But shout out to Tim Connolly, who built the Wolves, who also built the Nuggets that went on to win the championship eventually after he left. And then he went and built the anti-Nuggets in Minnesota. And so him and his entire staff deserve a lot of credit for putting together this roster that is deep and talented and above all else, defensively sound. All right, let's move on to the Eastern Conference. Pacers versus Celtics. The very tired Pacers versus the very rested Celtics. The Pacers have 5 players who have logged over 400 minutes in these playoffs. The Celtics have 0. The closest that they have, I think, is Jason Tatum with 391 minutes played. Charlotte, I mean, I know an injured Knicks team would have been like, oh, this is easy food. But do you feel more confident that it's not the Knicks in the conference finals?
Sort of, because I think that the Pacers, I don't know though. I mean, after they shot the way that they did, that's like Boston is the team that's supposed to do that. Boston is a team that's supposed to hit 3 after 3 and wear you down. But the Pacers did it. And so I think it's going to be more of a competitive matchup than I would have thought before Game 7. But I still don't think that I think it's the Celtics to lose.
I mean, let's be honest. It should follow the same script as the first 2 rounds. They win Game 1 resoundingly. Then Game 2, because they dick around, they lose, and everyone's like, oh, no, what's wrong with the Celtics? And then they rip off 3 straight wins, and then they go to the finals, right?
Right, yeah. I do think the most interesting thing will be how Boston fans handled TJ McConnell, who is the most Boston sports star of all time, but he just happens not to be on the Celtics.
Max deal incoming for TJ McConnell in Boston in his near future. Really quick, I just do want to point out that all of these options seem very unsatisfying to me as far as a champ. We're going to get a new champ this year. And I look at all 4 of those teams and I'm like, no, I'm not sold on any of them as champs, even though they could all win. Well, maybe not the Pacers, but everybody else.
Not even Boston?
I just like, no, I'm not sold on them. I'm not sold on them.
Okay. After that,
I guess if I had to pick what I'd be most comfortable winning, I guess it would be Minnesota, because I do want to see the ascendancy of Anthony Edwards. Dallas, I can't deal with Luka Doncic complaining with a championship ring. His complaining is already out of control. Boston, again, I think
how happy I'll be. And we can go see our parents at DraftKings. Do it for me, I mean.
Well, I want them to go to finals. Just not win.
But we want them to win. We want them to win.